Okie dokie. Let's talk risk assessments. Now, I am going to be talking fairly fast because my time is limited. I can only make a video of 15 minutes. So please do feel free to pause, rewind, and replay wherever you need to make sure you fully understand what we are doing here today. But what we are doing are risk assessments. So for our coursework, we are going to be writing 4 risk assessments in total. We're going to be writing two about two different machines and two about two different parts. So when we are making our product, we would have identified all of the parts that we need to create, and we are going to choose two of those parts that are completely different, that require different machines, and create a risk assessment about, well, how are we actually going to make that part and what are the risks to do with it. So the first thing we want to add is a title block. I've got risk assessment here. You then want to identify your part name. So, it could be drive roller, it could be, I don't know, a lower roller, whatever. Any part name from your project. And then you're going to identify the machine that is used to make that part. And then you're going to list the processes that you would then use to also make that part. So I'm going to be talking about the center lathe, and these are some of the processes that I will be using on the center lathe to make the part that I'm talking about. So let's talk about our risk assessment and what is actually included. So this is my risk assessment, and I've got 6 columns. I've got a column for the hazard. So the hazard are the things that could happen. So for example, a tool post becoming loose after excessive use. That's a hazard because it could cause harm. The risk is then, well, what is the harm that is caused? So in this instant, if the tool post becomes loose, the tool in the tool post will shake and could break if contacts the material too quickly, not took, too quickly, which could cause a piece of debris to go in someone's eye. Now, yeah, that's a lot of verbal vomit. That is a lot of words there, but it shows a great technical and safety understanding. I'm going to give you another example in a moment, so you can also see another example that isn't too wordy. And then we go on to the level of risk. So if this happens, how bad is it going to be? Is it going to be quite low? Like, yeah, if you get a scratch, it's not going to be too bad. Is it a medium? Yeah, you're probably going to need some kind of medical treatment. Or is it high? Oh yeah, no. If that happens, you're gonna end up in A&E. You can have different levels of risk. You can have a number scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 3, or you can even change it to say severity or likelihood. The choice is up to you, but the whole point of this is to tell you how bad this risk actually is. That is the whole purpose of the level of risk. Next to it is going to be the control measures. So these are the things that we put in place to reduce that risk from happening. You cannot remove a risk completely. The only way to remove a risk completely is to remove the machine itself, which we just can't do. So we're talking about how can we reduce the likelihood of this happening. And these are our control measures. So for this example, a control measure would be place regular quality assurance checks throughout the use and visually assess for flaws or damage. So all that means is you're just going to check it. You're going to check it every now and then to make sure that everything is hunky-dory, everything is fine. And now we've got a repeat here. We've got another column of level of risk. The reason we have this again is because once this control measure is put in place, now what is the level of risk? Now, if the level of risk is still a medium, well, can you add in another control measure? So for example, we could put whoopsie doodles, wear safety goggles. Okay. Um, could that now bring it down to a low from a medium? For me, I think it does. So I'm going to put low. And then the final thing is who? Who is at risk? Who are the people who could actually get harmed if that hazard is to occur? Um, it's most likely going to be you, the user, but also people in the nearby workspace, perhaps. It could be a visitor who is on site that day, your technician if they're giving you a little bit of helping hand. It can vary, but 9 times out of 10, it will be the user and people nearby. Now, let's just talk about the layout quickly. You can lay this out however you like. In my personal and professional opinion, I think this layout makes perfect sense. You identify the thing that caused harm, you identify the risks or the harm that is actually caused, the severity, what we can do to make it better, what it actually looks like after we've done that, and then who is harmed. Now, your layouts are probably going to look fairly similar because again, this to me makes perfect sense. But what we can avoid is what you're actually writing in the rows, that they're not all the same and all in the same order. So that's where we can have a little bit of difference to this. But let's just have a look at how we can add our table and how we can lay this all out. So the first we need to do is we need to add a title to our page. So I've put risk assessment one. I'll state the name of the part. There's too many to choose from, so just choose a part that's actually suitable. And the machine that I'm going to focus on for this part is the center lathe, because then it gives me something to actually write about and talk about for examples. And then I've also listed the techniques and the processes that I'll be using. So I've got facing off, parallel turning, adding a chamfer, boring, which just is another way to say create a hole. Instead of going onto the pillar drill, you can do it on the center lathe. And then tapping. Now, I'm not going to tap on the center lathe. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put a full stop and then a capital letter to identify that this is actually a brand new technique. So center lathe and tapping. Now I need to insert my table. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab at the top of the menu. I'm going to go to Table. I'm definitely going to need 6 columns. And the rows are up to you, but I like to start off with 6 by 6. We can easily add more, so that's not a drama llama. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in my columns. So my first one is going to be hazards. I'm then going to write in risks. Uh, Severity. No, what was I can never remember what I blooming put. Level of risk. I never remember. Level of risk. Only because it chops and changes all the time. And then I'm going to do low, medium, and then high. Control measure. Level of risk again and again. We are doing low, medium, and high. And then who who is at risk, who is at risk. Now if you wanted to show amazing technical understanding or amazing knowledge, you can put a definition after each one if you so wish. I'm not going to, but you can. And also it's just a little reminder as to what you're doing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the font size. Can we please remember that when we are actually writing text, we need the font to be between 11 and 12. Any smaller than that, and it can get a little bit harder to read. And now I'm going to control the actual layout of my table. So I'm going to make it as wide as I can to actually fit the slide. Means I can get loads of information in there. The level of risk isn't going to be that bulky. It's either going to say low, medium, or high, or L, M, or H. Hazard and risk, yeah, that's going to have quite an amount in it, so I'm going to split that between the two. Again, level of risk is going to be either low, medium, or high. Not a great deal there. Control measure, who's at risk? Yeah, we want to put a bit of information there. So, I'm just going to raise this bad boy up a little bit more, just because there's no reason. I just like to have it a bit higher. I like to fill the space. Don't leave space if you can help it. Fill the space. So hazard. Let's think of a hazard for center lathe, and we're going to start with one that's fairly quite common. That's absolutely fine. Everyone is likely to have this on theirs, and that is flying debris. Flying debris literally just means something that is going to come out and it's literally going to fly off and probably hit you in the face. Debris is another word for waste. So flying debris. Can we get more technical from that? We can put an example. So E.G. Aluminium swarf. Another, they basically mean the same thing. But I've given an example by showing material that I'll be using on the machine. Shows good technical understanding, good knowledge. Swarf, a technical term, again, also showing more knowledge. So just by adding that small example and 2 words, I'm showing more knowledge. Right, what is the risk? The hazard is the debris flying at us. What is the risk? The risk is scratching, whoopsie, scratching to the face or eyes, can be minor or deep. So I'm giving a couple examples there, as it could be like a minor cut or it could be a deep cut. I could have put another specific example. So I could do E.G. scratch to corneas, which is your eyes. Level of risk. So how likely is this to happen? Let's be honest, fairly likely. I'm going to put medium. I'm going to put medium. I think it is fairly likely because the amount of material we take off, the speed of which the machine is moving, I think it's fairly likely. So I'm going to put M for medium. Now, what are our control measures? We can put lots in here. It doesn't have to be one thing. We can put as many as we can think of. So the first thing I think of is make sure safety guard is down. Absolutely. Wear safety goggles. Now, one of my big pet peeves is when people say wear goggles. I know the likelihood of someone wearing swimming goggles into a workshop is very, very small. But let's be specific. Safety goggles. I know I'm being a bit picky, but safety goggles. What is another one? I thought of another one. It's not about the tall post being sharp. Oh, remove small pieces at a time. So what I mean by that is only remove like a millimeter or half a millimeter of material. So E.G. remove only um 0.5 to, I'm going to put 0.75 mil of material at one time. Just because in my experience, if you're removing like really a lot, so more than a millimeter, the machine is going to fight against you and it's not going to like it, and you're going to get really chunky debris, which could possibly be sharper. So level of risk. With all those control measures in place, I'm going to say the level of risk is now low. Who is at risk? Well, me, the user. So I'm definitely going to say the user because I'm the one who's actually at the machine. But it, whoopsie doodles. But it could also be workers. Actually, no, workers in the area. I was going to put workers in the area, but actually, do you know what? No, it can't be because you've got that safety box. So there should be no one else in your space. So I'm going to take that bit out. There you go. So in this instance, it would just be you, unless you're having one-to-one supervision with a teacher, but we won't pop that in. We'll just put you, the user. And there we go. You would then continue to fill in as many hazards, risks, etc. that you can think of. We're not looking for essays here, but we do need to show a good understanding. So where you can, if you can put an example, a clear example where possible, it will just help to boost those marks. And if you want to add an extra row because you're running out, what you can do is right click and go to insert row below. There we go. And if you find you're actually running out, oh my goodness, actually I need to have another slide just for risk assessment one, that's fine. If you right click on your slide, duplicate, there you go, makes it all again for you, makes life easier, and then you can just delete the content and then add your additional things. So your risk assessment, so if you're going to have a total of 4, they can go over one slide. Just make sure to keep naming them. So when it comes to the second one, make sure you put risk assessment 2. Whoops, 2. You can even do 2 out of 4. So it is entirely up to you. But there we go. Really hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions, please do contact your teacher. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help. And yeah, that's it. So happy risk assessing.